Hello, TC, and welcome to your Thursday afternoon before Day Out, and thank you very much for joining us for a session on metrics. I'm really excited that you're here to see this and talk about it with us. My name is Andrew Kreitzer, and I can't wait to show you what we've been developing at Tableau. It's called metrics, and it's a whole new way to track your important KPIs anywhere and anytime. And we call them the headlines for your data because they really are the first thing that you see that keeps you informed. So a quick poll of the audience. How many folks saw metrics in the keynote on Tuesday morning? Okay, great. So you've seen a little bit of a preview. Today we're going to go much deeper. We're going to go and learn about what it's like to author a metric, what it's like to consume a metric, how they work. We'll show you behind the scenes a bit. And then we'll save plenty of time at the end for questions from the audience. So first, a little bit about who I am as your speaker today. My name is Andrew, as I mentioned, and I'm a product manager on our teams working on Tableau Public, Tableau Mobile, and Tableau Server. We help shape the future of those three products. And my history with Tableau goes way back. So I was using Tableau 3.0 as a consultant to try to look smart in front of my clients and then to teach it to other consultants at the company I was working for. And this is a dashboard that I used to train people internally when I was working at that firm. I went to business school and brought Tableau with me. They have an education program, in case you're not aware, where you can get free licenses for education, Tableau for teaching. And so I wrote a case study with one of my professors, which led to a lot of free swag, which is pretty nice, and also got me on this cool theCUBE TV during the Tableau conference and a customer speaker spot. After spending some time at LinkedIn and Facebook as a product manager, I joined Tableau in their Palo Alto office in 2018, where I work on our subscription licensing, collaboration, and most recently have been working on metrics. Fun fact about me, I used to DJ under the name DJ Crime Dog because my last name is Kreitzer and it kind of sounds similar. Someone thought it did. And despite never having been to Bermuda, my songs were featured on a radio station there because I posted them on the internet one day. So that's cool. So let's jump right in. I'd like you to come along with me for a journey back in time. So it's July 21st, 1969, and you're walking down the streets of Washington, D.C. The streets are buzzing with people, and you can feel the excitement in the air because a world-changing event has just happened. You look to your left and you look to your right, and you notice a newspaper stand, and you're really eager to learn the details of what's happened. And on that newspaper stand, you see this. It's the latest edition of the Washington Post, but you're having a really hard time grasping whether it contains the information you're looking for. You don't have much time on your way to the office, but you still want to be informed. You see this rich picture, and it kind of looks like some spacesuits, maybe an American flag in black and white, but it's just not totally clear. You're in a world without headlines. In an alternate reality, you take a look to your left and a look to your right, you see that newspaper stand, you pull out that newspaper, and you see this headline. The eagle has landed. 2 men walk on the moon. 1 small step for man, giant leap for mankind. You immediately can connect with others about this shared experience, and you understand what that buzz on the street is about. You get to the office and you can relate to your coworkers because you now have this common understanding of at least the basics. And if you want to learn more about this historic headline, you can read the article, but you don't have to. So why, when we approach newspapers for the last 400 years, have we put headlines at the top of them? But when we look at our dashboards on a day-to-day basis, too often they look something like this. This is a dashboard looking at airplane delays for Alaska Airlines. And it's not one I actually made, it's one that I found. And this data changes every single day as new flights arrive and depart from the West Coast. And in order to pull the headlines out, I have to orient myself to this dashboard. What's in the top left? What is the right bar chart trying to tell me? And what is the bottom left telling me? So I might see there's a flight trend. There's an increasing number of flights with Alaska Airlines over time, and the average distance traveled by each of those flights has increased over time. I might also see that delays in August are way higher than other months, and maybe I can dig in and use explain data to understand why. But it takes me time to interpret this visualization, and it takes me time because this is just one viz that I go to understand my business. So there has to be a better way to understand and stay on top of your data. There has to be a headline. So we're not the first at Tableau to think this. We have a really creative community. On Tableau Public, this was published on duelingdata.blogspot.com. A really creative author came up with 20 different ways to display a KPI at the top of your dashboard. 20 different ways, that's a lot. It's an opportunity to be creative, which we are as Tableau authors, but it only gets you so far. And here are some of the limitations. In order to create one of these, I have to integrate disparate data sets into a single dashboard, maybe 5 or 10, depending on where all my KPIs live. I have to repeatedly format each one of these. I have to have the Jedi or intermediate skills to create these dual-axis visualizations or dissect them on Tableau Public. And then when one of the users of my dashboards wants to change something, they have to come to me, because I'm the dashboard owner. I have to add a KPI for them, and then suddenly maybe it's not perfect for someone else. So I can't create a dashboard that's a one-size-fits-all model. Bottom line, it takes too much time to author, and it takes a lot of expertise to build these. So I'm not a proponent of not doing this for your dashboards. I think it's a great idea, but we at Tableau think there's a better way, and we've heard from customers that there has to be a better way. So that's the story on the authoring side. Let's look at what happens on the everyday viewer of your dashboard, the consumer of your dashboards. The story isn't that much better. They go to their favorites or their home experience, and they see a few dashboards that are important to them to run their business. In this case, I might want to look at my product analytics and also my company financials, because those are two things that are important for me as a line of business leader, for example. And I have to open each one, I have to wait for them to load, and I have to orient myself to each one, potentially filtering and manipulating each one to my exact specifications. And then when I go on mobile, depending on if it's been formatted properly for mobile, I might have to pinch and zoom just to get the exact number that I want. So bottom line here is there has to be a better way. This takes too much time to load each dashboard, and moreover, it takes time to understand what each of these dashboards is trying to tell me, what the headline is, because each author is a different person, or can be a different person. So those are the reasons why we're introducing metrics. All right. Does that pump you up as much as it pumps me up? Okay, so a delayed agenda because I didn't get to it in the beginning. Today we're going to go through what is the value of metrics? How are they different from your dashboards, and when are they better? How do you go about authoring a metric? And then once they're authored, how do you monitor your metrics, monitor your KPIs, both in Tableau server in the web and in mobile? So let's start out with the value of metrics. While Tableau Desktop and traditional dashboards that we build in Tableau are oftentimes the best tool to help you see and understand data and dig in and explore, you sometimes just need to stay on top of a specific number. So some of the features and value of metrics that make it different and better in certain ways than dashboards are that they load instantly, whether you're on the web or mobile, and they're up to date. So they automatically refresh in the background download on your mobile app, as well as background refreshes to your live and extracted data sources. And they're consistent. So regardless of who created them, they look like they look. And that means when they're blended together, the orientation time just basically falls away, and it's all about the data. Because of this, they're glanceable. This is regardless of the format that they're in. If they're on tablets, if they're on mobile, if they're on web, if you're looking at them in a detailed view, you can quickly understand what's going on with this number. And that works perfectly with executives that are short on time or workers that are on the floor of a factory that need to know their number in a matter of seconds. And we've also designed these using some of our research best practices on color and how to display data in a proper way. Very important to Tableau is they're integrated into the Tableau platform. So they're they're included as part of Server. There's no add-on or extras. And they are part of projects. They live side by side with your other data objects. And they can be governed in the exact same way with permissions. And while they're not mobile only, they're mobile optimized. Some of the first features and most advanced features we're building are on mobile only, and we're designing this for the busy individual on the go, either on the factory floor, on an airplane, before they enter a conference room, whenever you need to get on top of your data in a moment's notice. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and author our first metric together. And this could be literally a 5-second demo, because that's how quickly you can author a metric. So I'll go through and create a few together, and then we'll consume them in the next section. And we won't do this with Andrew from Tableau necessarily. We'll do this with a fictional company that I've created called the Faster Scooter Company. This is a company inspired by incrementally better companies that, for example, the one in There's Something About Mary. And so this is one that, while other scooter companies might have a scooter that only goes 15 miles per hour, ours is 1 mile per hour faster, like I said. Ours goes 16, incrementally better, and therefore we are a fast-growing startup of scooters. So let me jump to a demo. Okay, so here I am in Tableau Server. And for those of you who haven't seen Tableau Server in a while, this is our new homepage, and it has your favorites, your recents, and your recommendations all in one place. It's a much better experience than landing you in Explorer before. I'm an Explorer license right now, which is our middle tier role, which allows me to create a metric on Tableau. Anyone on your Tableau server can consume a metric, but only explorers and creators can create them. I already have a few created and favorited right here in my favorites, but I want to go and create a few more. So I'm going to go into my sales summary, which is data on our sales for Faster Scooter that's taken from our Salesforce data with our sales team. To orient ourselves to this data, we have 3 different kinds of accounts, 3 different kinds of opportunities, and 3 different kinds of products. And this is a dashboard that our team uses to get really detailed data and understand what's going on a week-by-week basis. So in this case, to create a metric, we've added a new toolbar item to the top next to alerts called metrics. When I click this, I bring up a right panel with some instructions on how to create a metric. I have this nice animated GIF that I think is quite a delighter. So to create a metric, we can create a metric on any continuous date axis in our early access version. But when we release this in the first half of 2020, we will allow you to create a metric on any mark on nearly any viz. The limitations are things like subtotals, user filters, and Gantt charts, but they're pretty nuanced. The goal is almost any metric, almost any mark on almost any dashboard. I'm in this early access version, and so I'm going to create a metric on scooters. So to do that, I have this time series of scooter sales on a weekly basis. And so I can go ahead and click on that time series, and I'm automatically seeing on the right-hand side a preview of my metric. The metric is based upon sales, because that's what I'm displaying on the y-axis. And I can see the 61,000 in the tooltip basically matches, with rounding, the 60,750 represented in the metric. The name of the metric has been automatically populated for me intelligently based upon the selection. So in this case, I clicked on scooters. Had I clicked on services, which we'll get to in a second, it will say something like sales of services, rather. So I can add a description here, and descriptions for metrics are really important. The reason why is that metrics, the benefit of having them look the same is we have no orientation time, and whether you authored it or I authored it, they're going to look similar and cohesive. The downside is they can start to look the same, and so information like the name of the metric becomes a lot more important, and the description of the metric becomes a lot more important. So here I can add a description like weekly sales from Salesforce. Contact Andrew for any questions, and I'll put my email, something like that. The definition of the metric is based upon the mark selection that you've made. So in this case, we've selected a measure along the y-axis, and then we've selected a date dimension along the x-axis. And so whenever possible, Tableau will detect a time series and bring in the historical values into your metric. I'll be saving this, and by default, I'll save it to the area where I have my dashboard already. It makes a lot of sense to keep content organized where it already lives. However, if I'm an explorer that I don't have access to this project, I can save it to a private project where maybe only I store my metrics, or somewhere that's more visible, where people can't access the raw data in the dashboard, but they can access the summary data. There are a lot of options in terms of how flexible the permissioning can be. I'll go ahead and click Create. And there, that's it. I've created my metric. It's ready to be used. I can favorite it and see it on my phone, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But before I do that, let's create a few more metrics. So in this case, I want to create another one on our services, because it's our second highest grossing opportunity that we work on. So I'll click on the Metrics tab, and again, I'll click on a mark along this time series. Now, one thing to mention is that we're pulling in the entire time series, and we're highlighting the most recent value, because monitoring is all about what's happening now and comparing it to sometime in the past or some sort of goal. So even if I click at a historical period, for example, back in 2018, the metric will still show me the value from the most recent. The data will still be in the metric to go back in time, but we're bringing in the entire series that's selected, everything that's in orange. In this case, I might change the name to Sales Services, but But actually, I don't really care about our sales of services as much. I care about how much of it we're selling in terms of transactions. And so since I have multiple levels of detail on this metric, on this viz, I have my average unit cost of 700 on this particular day, 742, and I have my number of transactions. I can automatically select from those different measures on this metric. We call this internally measure disambiguation. I think we can come up with a more catchy name, but let me know if you have one after. So in this case, I'll pick transactions. And you can see when I made that selection that the name automatically changed to transactions for services to make it more clear and suggest a naming convention. So we think that this is going to help name and keep the names cohesive and easy to understand in the server. I'll add another description here, like number of transactions for services. We need this to go up in 2019. And I'll go ahead and create this one as well. I'll create one more before we get to the big reveal of how these all look together. So in this case, I'll skip maintenance and jump down to a running total. This is a table calculation. And metrics look really great on table calculations and things like moving averages, 7-day moving average, 30-day moving average. And so any of your table calculations work with metrics. Really, any calculation in Tableau practically works with metrics. So I'm going to select metrics again. I'm going to click on a time series along year to date, and I can see it brought in 8.79 million. And that corresponds to this final value in the series of the most recent value on November 10th, so a couple days ago. In this case, I actually am in charge of not our entire business, but I'm personally in charge of our Zippy scooter line. And I don't sell our services. So what I want to do is start to filter. So I'm going to filter off services, filter off maintenance, and we can see the right-hand side, the ban, big-ass number, is dynamically updating. So I'll remove the faster product line. I'll also remove lighter. Now, I have the perfect metric for me to track the Zippy scooters. And effectively, we can track and make any metrics for any filters that we have on the dashboard. It becomes a really powerful way of a metric creation dashboard. So in this case, I'll call this year-to-date sales Zippy scooters only. Say this is for our Zippy scooters. Andrew is the line of business leader for this area. In this case, I'll go ahead and create the metric. Awesome. So the metrics are essentially a combination of all of the manipulations, the selections, the filters that you make on the viz, and the selection that you make for the mark. That makes up the entire definition of the metric. So let's go ahead to the project where I've created all these metrics and take a look. You can see here all of my metrics are living side by side. I can get a glance of them really quickly, and even though one has been filtered many times, I don't need to filter the rest of them to see it. It's a really quick way for me to stay on top of this information. I can also see that this was refreshed 8 minutes ago when I created it, and 4 minutes, and so on, a minute ago, 2 minutes ago. And these will dynamically update as they're refreshed. And so if it's live data, we have a server administration configuration for how often live data can be checked. And if it's an extract, every time your extract runs, these will automatically be updated to the latest available data. So let's go ahead and favorite a few of them. I'll save this one for a little bit later. And yeah, let's jump back to some takeaways. Does anyone want a scooter by now? I don't know. I don't sell those. Okay, so authoring takeaways. Who can create a metric? It's anyone who's an explorer or creator at a license level, but anyone can view a metric. Metrics work on nearly any mark, on nearly any viz. Some exceptions include user filters, subtotals and grand totals, Gantt charts, but nearly any viz. And when possible, metrics will detect a time series and automatically bring in the history that you have on that viz into the metric. Metrics work on live and extracted data sources, and when there's multiple levels of detail on a mark, you can select amongst those measures from a drop-down and disambiguate. We need a better name for that. Metrics can live in projects and have permissions. So I can have private metrics that only I can see, or more public metrics that are available for my whole entire company. All right, so now that we've seen metrics be authored, we've authored 3 together, let's go ahead and see how it works to monitor metrics. Okay, so we'll start on the server, and then we'll jump right into mobile. So here on server, I favorited a few metrics that are important for me to track. And when I go to my home or my favorites, I'll have a glanceable way of having a dashboard, if you will, of the metrics that I like to track. In this case, I have 2 other metrics that I showed you in the beginning of the talk, which were created from an entirely different data source and different dashboard, yet these are existing side by side, and I can get a pulse on what's happening. If I want to explore metrics, I can go in and see them in this traditional gallery view, and when I see them in a list view, I can get the metric value right away at a glance as well. So we're supporting the full functionality and full capabilities of Tableau Server, including search. So search is really delightful when you can search for a metric and you discover that value right away. It really cuts down on that time to insight. Let's go ahead and look at our sales for scooters on the web. That's how fast it loads. It's instant. So if we take a look at this metric, I can quickly swipe back and forth to prior values and get a pulse on what's happening at certain peaks and valleys. I can see this peak the week of June 23rd, and I can also get the most recent value of 60,750. In the top left, I can see the last time this metric refreshed. So I know whether to trust this information as the most recent or whether I should wait for the next time the extract refreshes or the server checks the live data source. In the action menu, we have all of your traditional actions that you have on the server today. So you can share them, rename them, tag them. You can modify the permissions of them, for example, to do that private or more public metric thing that I talked about earlier. I really like sharing metrics, and if you haven't seen our new sharing features that launched in 19.4, they're pretty cool. So I can go ahead and share. I'll go ahead and share with David. Actually, I'll share with myself here. I can share a metric with myself to remind myself of what this is in my email, or I can share it with other members of my team. I can add a quick note like, stay on top of this. And when I click share, an email will land in those users' email boxes with a snapshot of the metric as well as my note that I provided to them. This is also, you can share your dashboards, you can share your data sources, your flows. It's pervasive across Tableau Server in 19.4. On the right-hand side, I can see the description that I've added, which is helpful for me for getting additional context about this metric. And then I can see where it came from. So if I want to dig deeper, why did our sales go up so much, June 23rd, 2019? I can go to this connected view and drill in deeper. And I can set up a dashboard specifically to do that kind of drill down exercise where you find something in the KPI and the metric and you drill down. You can see the definition is here to provide more structured explanation of what this metric means. And I can link back to the project where this metric lives. So that's a little bit about metrics on the web. But I mentioned that there's a whole host of mobile-first features that we're introducing. So let me go ahead and jump over to that. Here I am on my phone, on iPhone. We also have Android support for Tableau Mobile. And for those of you that don't know, because this question came up a couple times this week, Tableau Mobile is completely free with your Tableau server and Tableau Online. So you can use it. There's no additional cost whatsoever. And so I can open up my Tableau mobile app, and instantly I'm seeing the metrics that I've favorited on the web. This is a way that I can walk in, right before I walk into a meeting room, I know the latest number of transactions on our services. I know what our scooter sales are this week. I'm informed and I'm ready to make decisions based upon this information. And when something looks weird, I can drill down deeper. We also showed in the keynote this brand new list view that's not just for metrics, but for any content that's in Tableau Mobile. So here I can see the last time this data refreshed. And sorry, I can't make this any bigger. And I have a spark line with this tappable pill. So let's look at, for example, scooters, the second one down, right about here. So here, I can see that week over week, we're up $16.5 thousand, and that's a 37% change. The gray text below sales of scooters is showing me the current week and what week is being compared to. And the reason why it's showing me this is because I don't even have to go into the metric to get a full understanding of what my data is, when it's relevant from, and what dates it pertains to. But I will, because I'll go in next and do that. So let's click on sales of scooters. And here we can see, just like the web, a very swipeable, smooth way of navigating through the peaks and valleys of this KPI and getting a pulse on what's happening. I can see there's a default comparison comparing week over week, and I have a nice legend at the bottom that's showing me the date range that this comprises. Just like on the web, the information for this metric is only one tap away, or even closer. So here I can link to my connected view with one tap, and I can see the description and all of the things that I went through a few moments ago. Now, I can see that my sales of scooters are up 37% week over week. However, we're going into the holiday season, and I don't know if we should be picking up faster than this or if this is normal. What I really want to do is compare this with a prior time period. In this case, we've launched an early version of Adjust and Compare, which will get a lot more powerful by the time we launch. But I'll show you what that looks like right here at the bottom. So it's right below the legend. When I tap into that, I can configure a default date range. Looking at 52 weeks of past data is kind of like looking at the last years of stock prices in your Stocks app. It might not be that relevant all the time, but sometimes you want to see it. So let's filter this down to something more manageable, like the last 12 weeks, the rolling quarter, if you will. I can go back to my metric, and now it's really easy to see and focus on the present of what's happening with my metric in the most recent time period. I can go back to this peak that I didn't really notice before with all of the noise of prior time periods, but I can see this September 15th peak of sales and how much it peaked over the prior period. Going back to Adjust and Compare, I can change what my comparison period is. In this case, I want to compare to the last year. And if I don't want to just see it as a static number, but I want to get a feeling for how we're doing week in and week out, I can turn on a comparison line to see what's happening. Now, I have a real pulse on what's happening. We've been doing really well the last 12 weeks. But actually, even though we did better week over week the last 2 weeks, we did really well last year this same time. And so I might want to dig into the data and understand what's happened with our product mix or some sort of lever or dimension that changes with our data. So to do that, I haven't made this dashboard perfect for drilling down, but I'll show you an example of how you could do that. I can click into this connected view, and as it loads, I could do something like select the most recent couple time periods and do a drill down. Do that one more time. Okay, well, under normal circumstances, I can do a drill down. You could also have this entire dashboard designated with click-throughs, where as you scroll down to different vises, it helps you discover why certain things are up or down and really make this dashboard perfect for this drill down scenario. So I want to add one more metric, because I actually forgot one when I was on the web. So let me go to Explore. So if you haven't seen Tableau Mobile before, it's really great because it's really simple. It keeps the most recent stuff that I viewed at the top, and it allows me to navigate to the projects that I have at the bottom. I can also use our search functionality to search for metrics or to search for any projects or specific content. In this case, I'll go into my Faster Scooter project, and I'll see the metrics that have been created there. I have this one called year-to-date sales that, if you remember, I filtered and made a customized version of just for me. And I'll go ahead and favorite this one. Instantly upon favoriting it, I go back to my favorites, and it's sitting right there for me. So I can create a custom curated dashboard just for me. One way to use this is to provide business leaders a folder, essentially a project, of a set of possible metrics and encourage them to favorite them to their liking. So let's go to some takeaways. Okay. Metrics are fully integrated in Tableau Server and Tableau Mobile. They exist side by side with your content. You can manage them with permissions, and you can favorite them and perform all of the actions that you would expect to see on any other content in Tableau, including tagging them, sharing them, adding a rich description, and things like that. In Server and in Mobile, metrics are living thumbnails. So in contrast to a thumbnail of a dashboard, which is there to remind you what it looks like, a metric is there to tell you what the value is at a moment's notice. And it's always live and up to date and updating in the background. You can collect your metrics into favorites, and we think of this as a great way to build a pseudo dashboard of metrics that are important to you, your personalized collection or personalized playlist of metrics. Metrics update with your data, and you can always drill down to the connected view to learn more. And they look really great on mobile. What do you think? They look great on mobile? All right. And on mobile, we have comparisons, and we have this quick tap pill that are some exclusive features just for mobile, but we intend to bring some of these to the server over time. So before I open it up for Q&A, I have two final things. Two final things. The first is that the future of metrics, this is our first release, and the future looks really bright. So if you haven't had a chance to try them at our showcase yet, make sure you step by our Tableau showcase and try them, and give your feedback to the team on what you would want to see in metrics to be successful in your organization. We've brainstormed internally about what we need, and we've talked to customers, but the more customers and the more input we have, the better we can serve you. So we're looking for feedback in these areas. Things like comparisons, alerting, and notifications. Whether you want user filters and having a personal metric for multiple users, like a sales quota, for example. whether you want to store historical values automatically and take a snapshot, even if your data no longer contains that value, whether you're interested in embedding or using our APIs to access metric data. And we are shipping this with the ability to call an API and get the metric values in return. And so much more. I think the sky's the limit. We've spent a lot of time dreaming about this, and it's my pleasure to introduce it to you today. Second thing, is your business on Tableau Online? Because if so, you can apply for our early access program at tableau.com/metrics. And if you aren't on our early access program, you can sign up there to learn more, and we'll keep you updated when it's available. So whether you're interested or whether you're interested in being in early access, please go and check it out. And I said two things, but there's actually a third thing, which is please complete the survey for this mobile app. You've heard this a lot this week, but this is really important for us to get feedback on the session and hear what you think about it. So thank you for sticking with me and learning about metrics. I hope you found it enjoyable. We'll open it up for Q&A. Yeah, anything goes. So just raise your hand and we'll call on you. And please be loud because I don't know if we have a microphone going around.